All right, guys, we are live, and what a day it was.
What a day! What a day! I mean, Austin, I don't know where you got to tell the fans and the viewers here where you were sitting during the game. I know I went down to St. Pete. I'm in Florida. I'm excited. I'm excited that the U.S. is back in the World Cup. I was pumped through and through the whole game, but at the end, which we'll get into, I left feeling wanting more. I was really happy first half, not so happy the second. But overall, I wasn't. It was it's a strange feeling because you're walking away, at least in my sense, disappointed, but also okay. There's a goal. There's some positive things to take away to the next group games. But how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty much the same way. That first half, we really got things working well towards the end of it, right? We were really putting Wales under pressure, and then yeah, kind of classic style to us. We just came out in that second half, looked a little bit off. Obviously, Wales changed up a few things. I believe they brought on Kiefer Moore at halftime
Yeah,
as well, the big
six
hulking
foot five
forward.
or something.
Yeah, he's a big dude, and yeah, they played a little bit more direct and definitely were a little bit more physical with us. And obviously the referees' decisions all night were a little interesting, right? It felt there's a lot of yellow cards, right? And not too many going to Wales, but besides that, obviously we really didn't play our best half, and yeah, unfortunately Walker Zimmerman conceded a pretty bad challenge that led to Gareth Bale's penalty goal, which tied
Yeah,
things up. But you really felt like it was coming in that second half, right, Pat? Like, as much good that we did in dealing with a lot of the pressure that Wales was putting us under, and a lot of the
right.
barrage of shots that they had throughout the second half. You just had that feeling, right, in the back of your mind that somehow, some way, this Wales team is going to find a way to score. And unfortunately, Gareth Bale pulled through again, man.
I know, I know. You can always feel that, right? When the tides are turning in a soccer match, where you just even felt from the first half, right? There were some really good sequences there. I think in the 8th minute, I'm looking at my notes here, with a ball over top from Des, I think it was, who didn't he had a poor game. Waya got on. He was the only one making those just vertical runs, getting to the corner, and he had a really quick cross. I didn't even think he was going to get to it before it went out of bounds, and he just poked it across the goal, almost caused an own goal there as a defender and the keeper, and Sargent had her off the post. But you could feel those momentums, right? And then when the Pulisic and Weah goal happened, the tides turned in that second half, like you mentioned. You just felt it coming and coming, and we just didn't adjust to the tactics. And yeah, you unfortunately knew it was coming. That's just something we've grown accustomed to in the age of Berhalter ball, as tactical manager would call it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, right? And we want to get, your guys' feedback in the comments as well as we start off our live stream here as people start to enter the chat room here. But what do you think overall? When you look at this result, right? It's a draw. We've in all the times we've gotten out of our group, we've never lost our first game, so it's definitely a step in the right direction, right? If you look at history, do you feel good coming away with a point from this game? Or do you feel like we left, more on the table? Do you think we should have gotten all
Yeah,
three?
good question. And I'm putting that cross here, Austin, just to gather the viewers too are talking about it in the 1-1 draw. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe it's just the tendency of a fan to be wanting more.
Maybe you feel like Sam here feels like a loss.
Yeah, I'm with you, Sam. It does feel like a loss, and I think what made it worse was seeing England annihilate Iran,
Yeah.
knowing that that game was going to be very challenging for us in Wales, to be transparent, and then leaving it to the last game, um, with some of the, not to make it all about refs, but if we have a similar experience against Iran in that last game, with I don't know, I feel like that could just be a disaster waiting to happen. Letting it all just kind of hang out to the last game. So some really positives to take away from it. Long answer short, Austin. There were some areas I was very happy with, but some, needing more. But it also feels like, okay, it wasn't a loss. We have some time to correct some things. England's going to be a tough challenge. And then, hopefully by the end, Iran, we'll be in our groove, hitting our strides. So that's kind of how I think, just moving on, moving ahead. We got a point. that second spot's going to be tight, like we all knew it would. But how about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love Greg's comment here too, because this is exactly where I was going. So he said Pulisic can't take our corners anymore, and the yellow cards accumulated is a concern. Yeah, Pulisic's corners this game were really bad. And I
Horrible.
thought when Aaronson came on, he was going to start taking corners, but it seemed like Pulisic, took him the whole game. And yeah, that was definitely something that was
Yeah.
disappointing. And the other point that Greg made there, all the yellow cards, I think that was. Something to watch going into this England game. And again, when you talk about looking ahead to Iran too, like we could be in a situation where we're going to have to put, backup players, into that game, depending on how that game against England goes. Also, if we're looking ahead to the knockout round, because I'm not sure when they reset, right? Isn't it, I think it's the quarterfinals or something, right? Like, if we
Yeah.
have players get yellow cards in that game against Iran, then we won't have them for the knockout rounds potentially too.
Yeah.
So we're just not in a great situation when it comes to the amount of yellow cards we have on our team right
Yeah.
now.
Two great points, Austin. That's something with the ref too, which again, all the things you could point at. But
Yeah.
I will say, just looking back on it a little bit more, you knew that was kind of some of Wales' tactics, and I think you're excited, from a USMNT perspective. Des, okay, you're young, right? Fired up. You have to be careful though. It's the first half of a first game where, again, nothing was, studs up going into the knee or ankle or anything, but they were going in aggressive, closing down aggressively, and that was kind of the Wales strategy, right? To kind of fall down a little bit easy, get the ref on their side. There was some momentum with some calls, certainly, but you just got to be a little bit more careful. And I think that's coming with the excitement. And I didn't think they were going to play, completely underwhelming, but just coming out too aggressive, getting a little bit too frustrated with the ref. I think you saw some of the quotes from some of the, I think it was Carlisle or some of the reporters after the game where Robinson was rightfully so, but pretty frustrated the ref. Like, it was horrible play calling, blah, blah, blah. As a young player, I know it's hard to put that, mindset away, but those yellow cards could come really costly in the next few games here, Austin.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the player stamina after this game too. I think yellow cards and our physical fitness coming away from this game are the two things it'll be interesting to watch against England and see kind of how they impact that game, because our players were tired coming away, right? Like, Tim Weah was a player that kept going down with some cramps, just fatigue. He's also a player that's very injury prone that we've documented well in the show. So definitely want to make sure he's good. Weston McKennie, when he came off, kind of grabbed his thigh. He's coming back from an injury. And then Christian Pulisic, man, you talk about the refs not protecting players.
Oh, he was getting
Christian Pulisic,
humbled.
Yeah, dude, he was getting killed out there, for lack of a better word. So yeah, I think that's something to watch going into the next game too.
Completely agree. And Sam just brings up an interesting point. I want to again go through. We saw the lineup, right? We saw who the subs came in. Matt Turner in goal right across. We had Zimmerman, Ream, which I thought Ream did fairly well.
Yeah, I thought Ream did well.
Him back, right? Robinson, Dest. Dest questionable we can get into. And then, again, our midfield that we preferred, right? Austin, MMA, and then Sargent, which I liked, with Pulisic and way up top. So starting lineup, I thought I was pretty happy with. But yeah, like Sam mentioned, the roster construction. And you saw even with some of the subs, right? Huge topic, right? Morris, we didn't see Gio Reyna. What's going on with that? Yedlin coming in looking horrible as usual. Like every game it gets worse and worse. I'm sorry. But Acosta, he made a pretty crucial goal-saving tackle, I think. So no, not there, but like, yeah, it is a little bit wonky. I think I can agree with that, where maybe some other players, maybe it is injuries, maybe it's just the timing of some of those other players. Jordy, you mentioned those, right? Just didn't get the opportunities. Some were hurt, or maybe the club situations. But it was a little bit concerning. Who can we call on? After maybe that, one or two off the bench.
Yeah, and what did you think, Pat, of some of those starting lineup decisions, right? Like, we were excited to see Tim Ream. I know in our preview episode, we did with the Eyes and Vibes guys over there.
Yeah, shout out to Eyes and Vibes.
Yeah. We were, kind of hoping to see Ream. Obviously, we wanted to see him on the roster, but we also wanted to see him in the starting 11 for this game. Yeah, I feel like that was really, really positive and exciting. And then what were your thoughts on Sargent over Jesus Ferreira?
That's a good question. I personally like it. Uh, I think Sargent championship has been in the form where Ferreira, especially in the playoffs, has been kind of trailing, right? Very interesting. Again, maybe it's behind closed doors of training. Sargent had been
Mhm.
outperforming, but certainly did something to get the start, right? Ferreira has been a Berhalter guy for quite some time now, right?
Yeah.
So I thought Sargent did some things well. I think his link up play, right, for some of the sequences there and great attacks we had was pretty good. And he was there. He was pressing very very well, but you saw the second half getting a little bit steamed, gassed, like most of the players. I just don't think we're going to see in Berhalter's system and the way we play and the lack of chances created anybody coming into that nine putting in 2 or 3 goals. So I think for what his role is in Berhalter's system, I thought he did okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I would agree for the most part. I thought Hadjirai came in and actually had some good hold up
Yeah.
play. But again, he didn't look very dangerous. And again, we only had one shot on goal all day, which was, I think, another really disappointing
Unbelievable.
part of this game. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to win many games if that's the case. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I know, Chris, you had a comment up here. Chris had a good question basically, and I want to pitch it to you, Pat. So, obviously Ream looked pretty good today. Walker Zimmerman was at fault for the penalty, but overall I thought, he didn't play too bad either, right? Like we didn't give away too many great chances. I know there was some chances off set pieces, which, is tough. And again, Wales is a good set piece team. So what do you think, Pat? Do you think it's fair to go with Ream and Zimmerman for arguably our biggest game? In the group stage here? Or do you think Greg Berhalter switches it up and goes with someone like CCV in this game? Aaron Long, even, I guess, is an option out there. What do you think?
I think I'm okay with this. I think I'm okay with this lineup. I don't mind CCV. I do mind Aaron Long. I really don't trust him, especially what I saw that just oof, I don't even know the words to describe what England did was criminal to Iran. Iran's defense. That was just I just can't imagine those guys coming at Aaron Long. Yeah, Zimmerman, I thought honestly he was okay, but terrible tackle in the box with that penalty, right? But
Mhm.
I thought him and Ream for the most part. Maybe I'm too optimistic from the first half of this game against Wales. I thought they looked fantastic. I thought Ream was tremendous, Austin.
Yeah,
I think
he
looking
looks
back at
calm.
the stats, yeah, and again, he had a few times right where the pace gets him, but he had a lot of understanding with Anthony Robinson that would kind of come back
Mhm.
more, cover that space, or when anything kind of broke down. So they have that understanding there to help cover, and then he made some smart tactical fouls too. Um, what do you think? Do you think Zimmerman Ream is the right pair for England? Would you switch anybody out?
I think you got to go with these two again. Again, based on who you got on the roster, right? Like I don't have too much faith in Aaron Long coming in and playing in this England game. And Cameron Carter Vickers, I think, is an interesting option, but I wouldn't trust him over these two now that they've played a game in the World Cup, right? I think
Right.
both of them showed pretty well today. And yeah, I don't feel confident in the other two guys, I guess, to be completely honest. Now, something
Yeah.
that could be interesting that Greg Berhalter goes to is a three at the back system, right? We haven't seen it very much. And again, not saying it's something we want to see, but that is an option as well. And would definitely be interesting and maybe a different way to neutralize some of that, attack that we saw from England today. And maybe
Yeah.
give them a different look, right? Something that's a little
Seriously.
different.
Shout out to there, Greg. Again, get your fish and chips ready. All right, guys, we're coming for England. I like it. I like it. I think just looking, and I know we're kind of jumping around Austin, but just thinking ahead too. We have a 1-1 draw. You just got to keep your heads up. I know what I saw from England was, again, maybe Iran's just bad, really, really bad. I don't know. It was a little bit intimidating to think of moving to the next game, but yeah, I just think you got to stay positive. You could still get a draw, and we could still win, but I think you can look at it positively, getting another point, off England, and then it just seems like no matter what, you have to win that last game. You have to,
Yeah.
100%. So, yeah, I think just overall first and second half, and maybe Berhalter, although history seems to repeat itself, his in-game changes and management is just poor, and the subs he used we can get into. And I want to hear the chat's reaction too. Where no Gio Reyna.
Yeah.
Looks like there was some rumors of injury. It wasn't. Gio even said he was 100% fine. Interesting. So I'm hoping some of the adjustments there. They can watch some film back. They have a little bit of time here, a few days, right, to rest, recover, analyze, and then give it their best go against England. So I'm still excited. I think I was disappointed in this result, Austin, but I'm
Yeah.
not disappointed in going to England and saying, "Oh, we're going to lose 5-6-0."
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And maybe now's the time to talk about some of these substitutions. So we saw we all 5 substitutions in this game, right? With the first one being, let me pull up my little map here.
Yeah, who it wasn't Haji.
No, it was Brendan Aaronson. So he came on for I believe it was Weston McKennie. Yeah.
Weston
So that
McKennie.
was when McKennie went off. Again, looked a little, not injured, but definitely a little bit labored with that leg or thigh injury. And I thought, Brendan Aaronson came in and tried to get involved in the game, but it wasn't as much as I was hoping for, right? We've really seen him at Leeds this year be that guy for that team and kind of take the ball in really crucial key moments of the game and kind of drive it forward and make something from nothing. And I was really hoping we'd see some of that when he got on the pitch today. But it looked like, again, he was trying to be a little bit unselfish. And part of me wanted him to be, more selfish, Pat, when he was on the field, because I really think he's one of those players that
Oh yeah.
can unlock a defense on his own, right, and kind of be a creator in the final third. And that was something we didn't really see any player do too effectively today. So what did you think about him coming on? Do you think, first off, it was the right decision to start him on the bench and have him come on in the second half as a, late game sub?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with him coming off the bench. Now I think England is interesting too, where
Mhm.
he's playing in the Premier League, right? He's getting a lot of experience with those guys. So I would be okay with him either way. I think more what I was thinking was, okay, well, you have YAA, right? And then even Reina, it's tough, right? Between those three of where they fit and who's kind of playing what position, who starts, who doesn't. So I thought it was just hard for him to get into a game where Wales clearly adjusted. They played more direct in the second half. They were pushing way up higher, right? They settled in from that first half,
Mhm.
and we were just sitting back. We couldn't get any momentum going. It was just like you said at the beginning of the stream: hold your breath, hold your breath. They're getting close. Wales getting much more chances. We can't pull 2 or 3 passes together without giving it back to them. So it was hard for him to get into a game like that, especially when there's no chances. The ball's just stuck with our defense. It was a challenging situation. So I would not mind seeing Aaronson with his energy, right?
Mhm.
Especially against an England, starting. But at the same time, look how gassed our players were.
Yeah.
And maybe it is a case where you bring Aaronson on maybe early, 55 minutes or something, depending how the game goes. But what are your thoughts? Do you think Aaronson starts? Formation change. Again, we didn't see Reina either. So
Yeah.
what do you think?
I don't know. I'm really curious going into this England game, and I was fine with him on the bench for today's game. I really thought the lineup made a lot of sense. Going into this game against Wales, again, it's a team that we played against, right, in a friendly recently, and I feel like this lineup today really was set up to take advantage of some of their weaknesses, especially when you look at the active midfield, right, that MMA midfield. And also Tim Weah just hitting on the counter, right? Scored a goal off of great play on the counter. So going into the England game, yeah, I'm curious to see what we do. Because part of me would like to see, honestly, Weston McKennie maybe get a break and have someone like Aaronson or Reina come on in midfield.
Yeah, I think he's a
Looks.
solid player, but Austin, something wasn't right. He
Yeah,
was
he just looked off, right? And you don't see that very often from Weston McKennie. He's someone that always is, trying to go full board, but today it just didn't really seem
yeah.
like it. Yeah.
He might recover quick, but I feel like it's been a lot of the case of just rushing things back too.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's better to take that extra time, to fully heal. But again, I don't know the extent of the
Body
injury.
right.
I'm no doctor, so
Yeah. So I
uh,
guess, we'll see what happens versus England, but
yeah,
I kind of want to move on to the next round of substitutions that came in because I'll be honest, Pat, I was actually happy to see these subs, and again, it was based on more the I guess the form in the game that the players were
right. You talking
had.
about the 74th minute there when Dest, Musa, and Sargent came off?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, because I think Musa was dangerously on like a last, foul before a yellow card, right? Like he had some pretty questionable fouls there right towards the end of his time on the field. So I thought we kind of needed to get him off the pitch just to make sure he was safe. And then again, maybe this is the time to talk about it now. Serginho Dest, for all the good he provides going forward, we didn't really see much of it today, and we saw a lot of just not great defending. And I think the biggest problem with it wasn't necessarily the problem of him not defending well. It was the fact that other players kept covering for him, right? You saw Tyler Adams rushing back and getting out of position to cover him. And kind of the theme I saw all game was really two players or, a player kind of trying to get back and take on Serginho Dest's defensive responsibility, which therefore took them away from somewhere else on the field, right? You saw that with Tyler Adams. You also saw that with Tim Weah dropping back at times, even some of the center backs shifting out. I don't know. It was something that kind of stuck out to me as a big problem, right? Like, for all the great things Serginho Dest does, we didn't see any of that today. So I don't know if maybe DeAndre Yedlin gets to start next game, which sounds crazy saying, right? Because he's not, you know, I don't know. He's not a unflappable right back as well. He has his own shortcomings and problems, but I don't know. Today it didn't seem like it was really working for Dust.
yeah, I agree with you there, and Austin just Ken's throwing a few comments here,
Yeah,
uh, both on the same side, Dest and West, and then even Scally, right? And I'm going through here.
yeah.
And
He
that's
could be
something
an
that's
option.
awesome.
Yeah,
Uh, I think it would be interesting to see. I feel like he's a from what I've seen from him from the USMNT perspective. Can he handle the moment and not let the moment of the World Cup kind of take over him, right? And play with less nerves and have that confidence there, which I believe he can. It, I just think that yeah, Yedlin. I mean, from the experience, it's great, but gosh, if you were watching some of his Inter Miami performances to what he's been doing now, and even in this game, Austin, he can't close down. He can't toss the ball anymore. I think somebody on Twitter called it like a Division two soccer player, which again, not knocking any
oh my
I don't do Division two school, not knocking any players, but gosh, I think at that point even Scally or somebody would just have better, on the ball ability or just defending and awareness. I think you mentioned awareness being the biggest thing. So
yeah,
I'm trying to go down that tangent, but I did like kind of those few subs, right? Just Musa was getting so gassed.
yeah.
Right. You need to switch things up. Greg was trying to do that. It didn't work, but
What about Haji over Jesus Ferreira? What did you think about that?
yeah, yeah,
Kind
that
of
was
made sense, right? With where
yeah,
we're at in the game, the type of striker that Haji is over Jesus.
right, exactly, because that's someone that Berhalter, profile didn't even, compare directly. So I think Haji, yeah, to be able to handle that the physicality there, the hold up play, and like some of those wingers, and like
Ken
you
said he
said, he
liked
did
it.
create some chances there. So I think that's a positive thing, right? We've harped on some negative things, but I'm just thinking positive, right? From some of the subs, maybe the tactics weren't there. Maybe we've seen more of Haji early on. I'd love to see him, especially against Iran. Maybe that's a team he could really
Hmm.
take advantage of. But what do you think? Do you think we should have played Ferreira there? Does he go against England? Future games. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it made a lot of sense in this moment of the game, right? And again, I thought he had some pretty good hold up play. Obviously, really didn't get too many chances to score, but overall did fine, right? Did what was asked of him. Um, I still think Josh Sargent is the striker to go with against England. I don't think Jesus Ferreira is. It's weird, right? Because now that he hasn't played in this first game, I don't think he's the right player for England. Maybe if you look at Iran, that's another Iran. That's another game where maybe Jesus gets the call, but I think you got to keep with Josh Sargent, and then yeah, Haji Wright could be kind of your second half guy. But I
Completely
guess
agree.
I don't know. It's hard to say. Depends on the situation, right? Depends on if we're ahead, if we're behind.
Yeah,
What does the game does the game warrant? Can
right.
people
And Austin,
Sargent?
no
Yes.
Sargent. Agreed. Now, what does the game warrant? Perfect, right? In that substitution conversation, somebody we didn't see, didn't start,
Yep.
apparently 100% healthy, 5 subs, not a minute in. No Gio Reyna, guys.
Yeah.
So I want to hear, Austin, your thoughts on that. I know a lot of us have had him projected in starting lineups. We've had him, again, maybe it's injuries coming right off the bench, number one. And Chad, I'd love to hear, from you all. What were
Yeah.
your thoughts on no Gio Reyna in this game?
So I might have an unpopular take on this. So I definitely think I think we in a perfect world we should have saw him, right? I think he's that type of player where we need to get him on the pitch no matter what, whether that's changing formation, maybe making a sub in a different space on the field, right? Like maybe he should have been the Musa sub instead of Kellen Acosta. But I think when you look at when that sub was made, I believe we were still ahead, right? So it didn't really make sense to bring him on. Um, yeah, we were still ahead, so it didn't really make sense to bring him on. You kind of wanted a more defensive minded sub, and then you really
That's
need to
fair.
hold that last sub until the final minutes, right? Which we did. Tim Weah came out in the 88th minute, just because of injuries, right? You want to hold on to that sub.
Right. And that's a good point, Austin. You said the 1-0. I mean, we were locked in. It was
Mhm.
tough, but yeah, that totally makes sense, right? From that defensive perspective to lock in, grind out a 1-0 result.
Yeah. And when you're talking about the final minutes of a game, I kind of agree with Greg Berhalter. I don't think Gio would have been a, I don't know. It's hard to say Jordan Morris is going to be a difference maker, throwing him on in the final minutes. I think the only thing that you could maybe draw on from the past is that crucial goal Jordan Morris scored in World Cup qualifying. And again, the type of player he is, where he is gonna run hard and really track back and try and defend, use that pace that he has, and get into the box and try and score something, make a messy goal of nothing. I feel like that's kind of what Jordan Morris has become accustomed to. But again, when you talk about a player that can unlock a defense, right, and kind of make something happen from nothing, Gio Reyna is definitely that guy. So
Yeah.
it's tough. I think again, just the way the game went today and the situation, uh, it was tough. It was hard to really justify him earlier in the game, and then when you get to that final substitution, I think that's the point where you would want to bring him on the
Yeah.
field over Jordan Morris. But I think him and this is the tough problem we have now with the USMNT is him and Brendan Aaronson are kind of in that same situation, right? Like both players can kind of play midfield, they can kind of play an attack. We obviously have a limited supply of positions and places for everyone. You're really going to have to leave someone out at some point,
Yep.
right? And I think it's tough. That's the luxury, I guess, of having as many good players as we do now. But it's also kind of sucks, right? Because yeah, you got to feel terrible for Gio Reyna
Yeah.
coming away from this game.
I completely agree with you. And I think the important thing I'm taking away from what you mentioned is almost, well, if we know Wales is going to play maybe medium or lower block and we're having a hard time justify, right? We only had one
Mhm.
shot right there that, on target, I think you mentioned, and then
Yeah.
Timo was making some great runs. I think that's an exact reason why maybe Arena should have started this game.
Mm.
To have somebody, right, be able to break the lines, be a little more creative, draw more players in. At least you can make that argument, as opposed to, I think I'm agreeing with you in the sense that the time that certain subs are made, right, Acosta, and then as the game got later, I think Gio would have been able to influence more starting than coming on in that Morris timeline. I just don't think there would have been enough time. Maybe
Yeah.
there's that one moment of magic, but
It would have been tough. Yeah.
it would have been tough, and I kind of agree with you in that
Almost
sense.
like a garbage time substitution, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
he
okay,
probably
well,
would have been complaining that he wasn't on the pitch earlier, to be honest, if he came on.
yeah, exactly.
That's tough.
So we're always going to find a way. But I agree with you in that sense. I just think, gosh, he against England, I'm thinking ahead. You got to find a way to start our best players, and I think
Yeah.
Gio playing with Bellingham. I think you mentioned
Yeah.
that too, and he looks. I mean, you can even pick those two guys out in Dortmund, right? Being kind of that next level, right?
Mhm.
Gio getting back healthy, putting in a run of games now in the Champions League too. When he got back against Man City, he doesn't look out of place there. That's the guy you need to have starting, I think, against England to make that difference,
Yeah.
make those maybe one or two quality chances we get is going to be so crucial in that game. So, not to harp too much on that. And Ken's bringing up a good point, right? Showcasing Gio at this World Cup. I love
Yeah.
it.
You're
I
not
love
wrong.
it. But you're right, Austin. We do have a lot of those guys kind of in that same space position. I just think looking ahead now, we can't harp too much on what
Yeah.
the past now. I think Gio has to start. You got to find a way to start him against England.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking we replace maybe him in midfield for someone like Yunus Musa or Weston McKennie. I think it
Yeah,
really
Weston
depends on.
McKennie's hurt too.
Yeah, I think it really depends on that injury, honestly. And if McKinney maybe isn't 100% to go, then maybe we put Reyna on as that, like, more forward 8 or 10, and again, someone that can kind of sit in the middle and create. Obviously, he's so good on the half turn, right, with his back to defenders and making things happen. I would love to see even maybe Brendan Aaronson in this game too as a right winger, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of positives about Tim Weah, though. That's like the really tough thing, right? And obviously scored these
Far-fetched
2 games.
idea, Austin. Tim Boy has been playing right back for Lille, right wing back with him and Aaronson now.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, maybe that'd be interesting. Might provide more than Sergiño Dest did today, unfortunately.
I know, God.
Uh, yeah, I fully agree though, and I think when it comes down to Aaronson or Reyna, again, because you could look at Aaronson as that third midfielder for this England game. I think you go with Reyna, right? Someone who's probably a little upset after that first game, someone who's definitely going to be trying to showcase his talent, like Ken's talking about. This is definitely a tournament that he wants to make his name known at, and again, I think going against someone like Jude Bellingham as well, someone that's a friend, there's a little bit of that rivalry to it
Oh,
as well.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I,
there's gonna be some bragging rights back at Dortmund, Austin.
yeah, yeah, it's very true. So
Yeah. So I'm
yeah,
thinking too, just kind of backpedaling here, right? When you talk about the subs, I'm trying to stay a little bit more optimistic right from the first half and the second half, right?
hmm
What were some of the positive guys that you took away from this game, right? So obviously it did feel like a loss, this draw, but going into England, Iran, anything that you're taking, Austin, from this game that we can go in to be more confident in? Maybe in terms of player personnel, people you like to see, tactics, or just kind of the um, how the team was playing, right? I want to throw it to you and see if any positives from this game.
I think Tim Ream's play is probably one of the biggest positives coming away from this game. I really thought he looked confident and comfortable. And again, his partnership with Anthony Robinson was really good today. Also Matt Turner too, right? Just like
Oh
he
yeah,
made some really crucial saves in that second half. Looked very comfortable on the ball, which is something that I feel like all of our goalkeepers always have like one or two moments in bigger, high profile games where they struggle, and you really didn't see that from him at all this game. So I thought that was good. And then, yeah, I feel like I don't know. It's tough. Obviously, Tyler Adams played really well defensively. I did think there was some times where he was a little too loose in possession, or just I don't know. I struggle with you know I guess my critique of Tyler Adams, because he does so many great things defensively, and that's his main responsibility. But there's definitely times where I feel like he can offer maybe a little bit more, insightfulness when going forward with the ball. But overall, I think those were the three positives for me. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I'm just showing that here. Ken Reem
Hmm.
mentioned there positive. Musa too interesting. I think
Yeah, I would say
I think it wasn't one of his better games personally, but he's still a guy that just kind of can calm things down. Never seems to really have something disastrous, right? He
Mhm.
seems to be that calm in the midfield engine and can kind of you know just makes you feel comfortable when he has the ball. That's how I think about it. So I can agree with that. Turner, fantastic. He made some crucial saves there. You can see why he's our number one. But yeah, I think I'm with you on Reem. I think he was incredible, and I wish I had some of these stats up. I was just looking at it on, I think it might have been USMNT takes or someone on Twitter. But Reem's statistics, right, and just seeing the game, were very impressive. Even when the second half things kind of turned on and they were playing more direct, trying to focus on his weakness, right, his speed and agility getting back. He had some coverage there. He made some smart tactical fouls. That a savvy veteran would, right? So
Mhm.
overall, I thought I was very impressed with Reem. I think also I would say probably some good and bad, but I think Pulisic in certain scenarios the set pieces right weren't great. He had some rough kind of final third touches, trying to do a little bit too much, but he created a fantastic assist. That movement with Sargent, him, and Weah with the hold up, and then Pulisic making the driving run. That's a really good big positive to take away from, and the way of finish. I think that will give them some confidence to go into. Looking at how they were able to build on that attack, how they were able to kind of interchange with the runs, and again, Pulisic targeting getting fouled plenty of times. He still did some very positive things. And I think we're starting to see that Christian come out of his shell, a little bit of fire there. And I would take that as kind of more positive momentum to maybe really turn into that old Christian right for England, especially against Iran, because again, him and Weah were the best in attack, and that's a reason why they were in that sequence for the goal and the assist.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So maybe looking ahead now to England, what are we thinking about this game? What I guess what should we have in mind going into this game? Is there something that we can take away from this game that'll help us going into that game? And then also, what kind of lineup changes should we look to see for this game? I know we talked about it a little bit, but want to pitch it to the chat as well
Yeah,
and get some
put it in the
comments.
chat. Well, Austin, make sure Zimmerman doesn't do any, you know, samurai karate kicks on Harry Kane in the box. um, I think I think just being a little bit more for England, we are going to sit back. There's just no doubt. So it
Hmm.
depends if that's starting there, right? And even Robinson venturing, just being in really good communication with your center backs when you're going forward. Really being in that, especially Tyler Adams, right? Kind of captaining that defense there. I think they have to be very, very careful because the way even we thought England's midfield maybe wasn't the strongest, seeing some of those sequences, the passes with Declan Rice, Bellingham was fantastic. Getting the balls to those speedy attackers, they were. I mean, Sterling, even even Sterling, right now in the best form recently, having those bursts of run. Harry Kane being one of the best attackers. So I think a huge key that Berhalter has to focus on is getting the defensive line right, making sure everything's organized right, and then something we haven't seen from him. But 5-10 minutes in, if we're getting bombarded, right, like Wales was bombarding us in the second half, how can he adjust his in-game tactics? I thought Hercules Gomez said something interesting. I was looking on Twitter here that he said these players are green for a World Cup, but Greg Berhalter looked even greener. I thought that stuck with me, and I just want to see a more cohesion in the back, smart with watching the runners there, not committing too many numbers forward, even though we will be playing more, in that low block. but just being kind of connected. And then, if things aren't going well, who can we bring in? What tactics can we adjust formation wise? Can Berhalter get that through to his players on the field? Because that's something we didn't do in Wales, and we've seen even in the friendlies and in qualifying, Berhalter has never been able to adjust, mid-game tactics. So those are some of my takeaways. What are your thoughts, Austin?
Yeah, I think going into this game, I think we should, like you said, kind of play with that. Sit back and kind of ride it out for the first half and see what we can get on the counterattack. Right, that's something we've been able to take advantage of in some other games. And I think again, bring Gio Reyna into the midfield. Potentially, yeah, like Sam's saying here, Aaronson on the wing as well. And again, having that understanding between all the players that, again, we're going to have to defend for, a good portion of the game. It's going to be a lot different of a game than the one versus Wales. But ultimately, once we get the ball back, go with it quick, right? And kind of capitalize on those moments where England kind of switch off, right? They're not the strongest at the back, right? There is some cracks. Harry Maguire is well documented, is not the best center.
They still got 2 goals, Austin. I mean, Taremi, needed one. You were saying Iran looked horrible, and then all of a sudden they were able to get 2 goals. Man. So it's not like they're a stonewall defense.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They love to attack and they love to get forward, and I feel like a lot of times they let their guard down. So I think we really need to again have patience, right? Have patience, communication. Once the ball turns over, then it's time to go. And I think a lot of our players, are able to play that style and kind of, do that, right? And do that well. So, I think if we can kind of master that and have the patience to seize our opportunities in some of these moments, again, I really vouch for and back our players in one-on-one battles, right? Christian Pulisic taking on a defender one-on-one. Yeah. When you look at Brendan Aaronson, even Tim Weah, right, is able to do a lot of great things with his speed and some of his, dribbling and skill moves, in space. So I really think that should be the game plan going into this England game. And we'll see what good old Greg does. But that's kind of my 2 cents.
And that's the next one too. I really do feel like in terms of maybe not going too much, sticking more broadly.
Mm-hmm.
I think Black Friday, right? Day after Thanksgiving, England, USA, big hype for that game, the history, the rivalry. Obviously England's coming off a high and confident. And maybe having this 1-1 draw is a good wake-up call for our guys, a reflection in the mirror. Maybe, things were, too easy for Wales, right? Maybe we got that 1-0 win and the guys are too comfortable. Oh, we got to win. We're good, right? Maybe this will light a fire into their bellies, right? Really sharpen their tactics, work as a team with that cohesion, right? Be careful with the tackles, but I think you do have to be aggressive, right? You can't sit too far back and let, Foden, Kane, whoever, right? All those attackers they have at their disposal do tricks and flicks, right? You got to come in, make it known that you're here to play. And I think the moment of this game, and seeing what I saw against Wales in that first half, our guys weren't scared of the moment. Mm-hmm. Even being a green team, we're one of the younger teams against a more, I guess, experienced, right? Wales in terms of their, their team and how long they've been together. So I think that, again, a positive takeaway I think from this game is heading into England. I think we can kind of use that to our advantage and say, hey, it wasn't the easiest against Wales. We didn't get that cakewalk 1-0, 3 points. Got a few areas to focus on. Let's get a result here. Instead of kind of winning against Wales and saying, oh, we're okay. We'll save the rest for the Iran game. We're okay. Whatever happens with England, right? So maybe this will light a fire.
Yeah. What do you think the final result will be of this England game? I love
chat. Everybody here, Sam, Chris, Ken.
I want a Jedi flip versus England.
Yeah, everybody, Greg, whoever else is still in the chat. What's the score here? Yeah, Jedi flip versus England. Love it, Ken. Love it. Austin, I'll be honest. I haven't really thought about the score initially after seeing this England game in the beginning and seeing.
I think it's classic England, though. I think it's classic England, though, right? They're gonna play. They played so well in this first match. They got everyone's hopes.
It's classic England.
they're gonna fail, man. Whether it's against us or whether it's later in the tournament, I don't think this team's gonna win the World Cup, right? Even though they look so good today. So hey, who knows? Maybe it could be against us where their
Who
dreams
knows?
keep crashing down.
If I'm being optimistic, and I'm gonna say we're gonna get a draw. I think we're looking at. My first gut wants to say 1-1. I just don't know how many chances we're going to get, but I could also see a 2-2.
Okay.
I just think England's attack is so potent there. So I'm gonna stay firm and say a draw. And yeah, Ken, I agree. I suck as well at score predictions. Yeah, Jake. Yeah, shout out to Jake there.
Oh yeah,
A
that's
draw
okay.
versus England. I think I'd be happy with 1-1 or 2-2 Austin. So again, same concerns we've had. Where the goal's going to come from, and then how are we going to handle that attack that England has. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the biggest question throughout the game, right? Is how we're gonna cope with their attack. But I really like our chances in this game. Again, playing on the counter. I think it's a situation that we're really comfortable with. And again, I think England's just a team where our players have a lot of unique, interesting storylines
Yeah,
related to them. It's also Black Friday. We all know that everyone in America is probably going to be watching this game, or probably more people than watch the game today, to be honest. So I think there's a lot
right.
more motivation going into this game. And I think we're going to be in a familiar situation, looking at some of those games we played against Mexico, right? Where our backs are kind of against the wall. There's a lot of question marks and people doubting, our ability to get a result in this game. So I like our chances. I kind of agree with what you said, Pat. I think maybe a 1-1 draw, 2-2 draw. I think optimistically, that's what I'm looking for. Again, I think we hit them on the counter. I think we don't necessarily do ourselves or cover ourselves in glory when it comes to defending. I do think we will give up 1 or 2 goals, but I think we'll be able to, channel some of that motivation
Yeah.
in a
Staying
positive.
optimistic here, right? And hey, with the prices of things going up, what's better than to watch this stay home, even with the sales, right? Are they really sales this
Right.
year? Stay home, watch the beautiful game of soccer. USA England there, right, Austin? So I think I'm with you with that draw, and I hope what happens that first 45 minutes we can keep things tight there, go in 0-0, right? Help hold them, make them a little bit frustrated, right? That they're having a lot of those chances, a lot of the possession, and then hit them on the counter. I think we really just got to be locked in tight, not to take too many risks in the first half, personally.
Yeah, I agree. Let's look at some of these comments here.
Yeah.
Says Jake says draw versus England. Let's go. Forrest here says we're either getting a 0-0 or a 1-1. Chris says my gut says 3-1 England, but I'll be optimistic and say 1-1. Love that. Love that.
Love the optimism, guys.
And then let's see. Forrest says we're getting a draw or a loss. I don't see us getting a win with Greg, so let's hope it's a draw. Yeah, hate to agree. I don't know if
I
Greg's
know.
leadership right now is strong enough to get a result versus or a win versus England. And Sam says here it's really hard to say because I don't have much faith in Greg Berhalter leaving Gio on the bench when we could have gotten 3 points. Adams in a cost of midfield today. GB is our Achilles heel. Very, very true.
It is Achilles heel. Awesome.
Maybe
I
we
think
should
that's
leave that for another episode. Although,
yeah.
yeah, Greg Berhalter is definitely. I don't know, man. I just still don't have faith in him after
I
what?
don't either. And I have faith in our players. And then I saw what was happening in the second half. Or maybe I should say the lack of adjustments in the second half. And gosh, even when it went 1-1 in the stoppage time, at that point, stoppage time, in that wide open header, I think it was mentioned, Chris, or somebody mentioned in the chat earlier. I mean, Kiefer Moore should have scored that. That was a wide open header. And I think that Turner might have hesitated on, someone in the chat mentioned. So I'll have to watch that back. But at that point, I wanted the game to be over. I was like, Greg, what are you doing, man? But, gotta support the guys. And as much as I don't agree with him from this entirety of his tenure with the U.S., I want his tactics to work out so we can get some results. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
very true.
funny mention here. Sam mentioned positive note. Budweiser donating the World Cup beer to the country that wins the tournament in soon Qatar. Not sure if true.
Oh,
No
Lord.
Budweiser. Shout out to Budweiser. But Austin, I do want to quickly before we wrap up here. Last thing,
Sure.
we're talking about the England result, right? Getting out of the group, right? So we have England sitting at 3 points, Iran 0, USA and Wales at 1. If you're looking about England, right, and you're saying maybe a draw, I think obviously that Iran Wales game is so critical.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but in chat, I'd love to get your thoughts. England's going to be tough. Let's say we lose or draw. What do we need to? What do you think needs to happen? Best case going into that last game. For that Wales Iran game, and how many points now do you think we need to get out of this group? I know that's a loaded questions here.
Yeah.
We can chat, guys. Austin, we'll work through it together, but it just makes the second spot even more confusing to me.
Yeah, it's a good question. So they'll actually play their game 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday.
Wow. Ooh, that's in the
so
heat of Qatar, even with those air-conditioned stadiums.
yeah, potentially when we wake up on Friday, we'll see what that result is. But I think the best result from that game, and again, let me know what you guys think. I think maybe getting or having Wales and Iran draw in that game. How much fight will Iran have left by game 3? Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't foresee them winning that game. So I think, yeah, if Wales is able to only get a draw versus them, then that sets us up to again have to get a win in that final game and hope that England takes care of business and yeah,
It's concerning, Austin, because
beats
you say
Wales.
that if England, let's just say worst case, England beats us, right? They might coast, go for a draw or
Might
something
coast.
like that. That's why I think Wales was kind of going down a little bit more with the cramps and a lot of their players kind of getting injured. And I think this was a great scenario for them
Yeah,
because they have England. I would love to have England last because if England wins those first 2 games,
true.
and they
But
have
I don't want Iran winning against Wales, to be honest, because then that makes that pressure on that final game that much more
yeah.
intense, right? Because Iran then is looking at potentially, um, advancing. Although I guess if they win, let's just think about this for a second with the goal differential, uh, the way it is, if we
It's
lose to
4, right? Is it 4?
it's 4. Yeah, I believe for them. So if we lose versus England, and go into the Iran game, we would, need to beat them, and then we would be tied, I guess, on 4 points, and then goal differential would come into play. But again, if they win, if Wales beats England, then we're all sitting on 4 points. So I don't know. It's quite the it's
Yeah.
quite the interesting situation. But
And I'm just thinking a lot of draws, right? A lot of
yeah,
draws, and I think Wales is in a good spot to really keep punishing Iran and how horrible that game was. But we've also seen the flip side of a lot of teams, right? Come
yeah,
together after a disastrous result like that, right? You have plenty of time in the group stages that we're not letting that happen again.
hmm
Let's see what happens. But let's just say in the case 2 draws, right? From my end, I'm thinking, okay, U.S. draws England, that'd be great. That'd be a dream result.
hmm
And even England, right? They would only be in 4. U.S., Wales, and Iran. I mean, U.S. and Wales would be 2, right? And Iran would be 1. So it's still everything to play for all spots. Now just create chaos
yeah,
in that last game. So yeah, ideally, right? Winning against Iran is, I think, no matter what, a must for us. And then a draw would be. I'd be very, very happy and very optimistic with a draw against England. A loss also wouldn't be the end of the world, but I mean, I think that would be a huge, huge win if we can draw England and then alleviate a little bit more pressure to say, hey, we can still go out and beat Iran because I don't think they're that good.
yeah. No, I agree with that. It's very true.
So, awesome.
Cool.
Well, guys, we appreciate you joining our stream here. I know it's I lost my voice. I was out in cheering on USA, so I sound a little bit raspy, but it was great, right? just having the experience again, Austin. And guys, we started this show many, many years ago. Four something years ago now.
Coming up on 5, I want to say, in January.
5.
So
in the basement here, talking about after Cougar, how we were able to get these young Americans right overseas to McKinney, right, moving, and all those other Richards and everybody. To here we are finally enjoying a World Cup game. Been talking about this all these years to qualifying, and we're here. So trying to enjoy it, take away the positive notes, focus on those negatives, right, correct them, and we go on to England, Austin. But we appreciate all you guys in the chat joining.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on with us tonight. We love doing this, right? It's so much fun to talk about, our team at the World Cup again. It's awesome. So, yeah, we really appreciate it, and we can't wait to do this. We're gonna do this, I think, after that England game as well, Friday night. We'll have to take a look at our schedules, but
yeah. So stay tuned, guys. YouTube posting there on Twitter, Instagram. We'll make sure we get that out for a live stream, and hopefully we have some positives to talk about.
That'd be nice, man. Black Friday. Are we watching the game? Nice little bar around me. So.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Good things. Awesome. So awesome. Well, thanks for joining, guys, and yeah, we're signing off.
Bye, guys.